So imagine for a second, you're standing in front of your closet, right? Getting ready for the day,
Okay.
and you're trying to pick out your footwear. On one side, you've got this, like, highly advanced, ultra-comfortable athletic running shoe.
Like a really good daily sneaker.
Yeah, exactly. You can wear it to the grocery store. You can, I don't know, run a 5K in it, wear it for 10 hours straight, and your feet just feel absolutely great.
Right. Totally versatile.
But then, on the other side of the closet, you have this highly specialized carbon fiber track spike. And if you put that on and, like, just try to walk down a concrete sidewalk,
Yeah.
you're going to be absolutely miserable.
Your arches are going to cramp immediately.
Right. You'll feel every single pebble. It makes zero sense for everyday life. But the second you step onto an actual rubberized running track,
It's just pure, uncompromising magic.
yes, it perfectly captures that friction, between everyday versatility and just laser-focused purpose.
And honestly, that friction is the exact core of what we're unpacking today.
Exactly. So, welcome to today's deep dive.
Yep.
We are tackling basically the ultimate motorcycle dilemma that riders are facing right now.
The big one, choosing between the modern, hyper-capable naked bike and the classic, aggressive middleweight supersport.
Yep. And to get specific, we're putting the Yamaha MT-09 right up against the Kawasaki Ninja ZX6R.
Two very, very different machines.
Radically different. And we've got a massive stack of sources for this today, ranging from these incredibly detailed real-world rider debates on Reddit to, technical engineering analyses and even some hands-on YouTube modding guides.
Right, because our mission today is to kind of shortcut that endless forum scrolling for you. We want to distill exactly what it feels like to live with, to ride, and, well, inevitably modify these bikes.
So you can figure out which engineering philosophy actually fits your real-world riding style.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's unpack this before we even touch on how these bikes handle through a twisty canyon or how comfortable they are on a highway commute. We really have to look at the beating heart of these machines.
Because the engine completely dictates how you, as the rider, are going to define fun.
100%.
Yeah.
So let's start with the MT-09. This one uses an 890cc CP3 engine. And for anyone listening who might be unfamiliar, that's an inline three-cylinder, which is often just called a triple.
Right, and it's an engine layout that's basically designed to give you the best of two very different worlds.
How so?
Well, it blends the immediate low-end grunt of a twin-cylinder engine with some of that smooth, higher revving characteristic you get from an inline four.
Okay, yeah.
So the defining trait of the CP3 is just this massive low-to-mid torque explosion.
A torque explosion.
Yeah, I mean, one writer in our sources described the acceleration as feeling like the bike is actively trying to pull your arms out of their shoulder sockets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's universally known in the community as an absolute wheelie machine.
Which sounds, terrifying, but also incredibly engaging, right? You're getting that literal punch in the chest from stoplight to stoplight.
Exactly. The power is just immediately accessible down low. You don't have to wait for the revs to build up at all.
So the bike feels alive and kind of rowdy at normal street legal speeds,
Yeah.
easily under 80 miles per hour.
Exactly. But then, you compare that visceral street experience to the Kawasaki ZX6R.
Right, a totally different beast.
Completely. Here we have a 636cc inline 4 engine, and the inline 4 provides this intoxicating high-revving screamer experience, but it introduces a major behavioral quirk.
Which is?
The power band on the ZX6R doesn't really wake up until you hit, 10,000 RPM.
Wow, 10,000.
Yeah. Below that, the engine actually feels relatively docile.
So this is what I call the quarter throttle dilemma.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Because former ZX6R riders in these forums, they constantly point out that the second you finally tap into that screaming high RPM power band, you are instantly doing 100 plus miles per hour.
Yeah, which is hugely problematic on public roads.
Right. On the street, if you're actually riding responsibly, you basically spend your whole time feeling like you're holding the bike back.
You're stuck at quarter throttle.
Exactly. You're stuck at quarter throttle, never really getting to wring the bike's neck.
And this is where we have to look at the physics of horsepower versus torque on public roads, right? Because horsepower, as a metric, basically bakes RPM into the equation.
Right, a calculation.
Yeah, it's a measure of work over time, which is fantastic if you're trying to achieve a high top speed on a long straightaway at a racetrack.
But torque is different.
Completely. Torque is the immediate pushing force. It's the actual physical acceleration shoving you back into the seat the exact moment you twist the throttle.
Which means torque is what you actually feel when the light turns green.
Yes, exactly.
But, okay, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Isn't that inline four screen like the entire point of buying a sport bike?
Yeah.
I just wonder if modern riders are maybe getting a bit impatient.
Impatient how?
Like maybe people just want that immediate gratification from a stoplight rather than having the actual skill and the patience to earn the power at the top of the rev range.
I mean, that's a fair point. It definitely takes discipline to ride an inline four properly.
Right.
But one rider in the forums who actually transitioned from an older inline four to the MT-09's CP3 engine, they noted that the inline four required winding out just to feel a, quote, sense of urgency.
A sense of urgency, yeah.
Yeah, so to feel truly engaged with the machine, they basically had to go to silly, highly illegal speeds, whereas the MT-09 delivers that urgency instantly.
So you can actually cycle through the gears, work the bike hard, and have this really highly engaging experience without, constantly risking a massive speeding ticket.
Exactly, you get the fun without the felony.
Right.
Yeah.
But, okay, so all of that engine power, whether it's immediate torque or that high RPM scream,
Yeah.
it brings us to the actual physical reality of riding.
Ergonomics.
Yes, because a brilliant engine is completely useless if you're in too much pain to actually enjoy the ride. Let's put these bikes through the commute test. How do their physical environments actually compare?
Well, the gap between these two machines widens significantly right here. So the MT-09 features this very upright, relaxed seating position.
Because it's a standard naked bike.
Right. Your back is straight, your feet are resting directly below your center of gravity, and you're holding on to these wide dirt bike style handlebars.
Sounds pretty comfortable.
It is. Riders report being able to just go for hours without experiencing any real neck or wrist fatigue.
But there is a massive downside to that upright posture on a naked bike.
Oh, absolutely.
No wind protection.
Yeah.
The MT-09 has no fairings, it has no windscreen. So if you cross, say, 100 miles per hour, you are going to get physically pounded in the chest by the wind.
Yeah, the aerodynamics just aren't there to support those speeds.
Right. It becomes this literal endurance test for your core and your neck just holding on against the wind blast. You essentially turn into a human parachute.
A human parachute, exactly. But then the ZX6R takes the exact opposite approach.
Right. It's covered in plastic.
Beautiful aerodynamic fairings and a windscreen that's designed to seamlessly cut through the air at really high speeds.
But there's a cost to that aerodynamics, isn't there?
A big one. The riding position can border on torture for the uninitiated. It is a dedicated race machine with high rear sets and very low clip-ons.
Let's actually break those terms down for a second for the listeners.
Sure.
So the resets are the foot pegs and the controls, but they're pushed way up and back to give the bike more ground clearance, right, so it can lean further in corners.
Exactly.
And the clip-ons are basically the handlebars. But instead of a wide single bar, there are two separate metal tubes bolted directly to the front forks, and they're placed very, very low.
Right, which forces your torso to lay almost flat over the gas tank.
Yeah, so tempting to ride the ZX6R in, like, stop-and-go city traffic. With that posture, riders in the sources routinely complain of sore wrists, a burning neck from having to look up all the time, and just total core exhaustion.
And that's after just 30 to 40 minutes of riding.
Trying to ride the ZX6R at 20 miles per hour sounds like trying to hold a push-up plank position on a rocket ship.
That is painfully accurate.
I mean, unless you have some way to anchor yourself, your wrists are just going to give out under the weight of your own torso.
And that brings us directly to, honestly, the single most critical modification agreed upon by almost every sport bike rider in our sources.
Oh, the tank grips.
Yes! You really cannot effectively ride the ZX6R without tank grips.
The Reddit consensus on this is just massive.
Yeah.
It seems like you shouldn't even ride the bike off the dealership lot without putting them on first.
Seriously, it's step one.
And I want to explain exactly how these work mechanically because it literally changes the fundamental physics of how you interface with the motorcycle.
Okay, break it down.
So, without tank grips, a shiny painted fuel tank is incredibly slippery against riding pans.
Very slippery.
So under heavy braking, your lower body just slides right forward and all of your body weight crushes down into your wrists against the handlebars.
Which is where that wrist pain comes from.
Exactly. But with rubber tank grips applied to the sides of the tank, you can literally lock your knees in.
Right.
And that friction allows you to use the massive muscles in your legs and your core to anchor your body in place. It completely takes the load off your wrists.
And the sources specifically debate two main grip options for this, right? Tech Spec and Stomp Grip.
Yeah, and they serve slightly different needs.
Right, so Tech Spec grips usually feature the softer snakeskin pattern. They're less aggressive, they're actually removable and reapplicable, and they're much easier on your everyday riding gear like denim riding jeans or
All
textile.
right. But stop grip, on the other hand, is for the rider who is like fully committed.
Oh yeah, the hardcore track
Yeah,
guys.
it uses this volcano or icon pattern with these really aggressive knobby rubber bits. And it's a permanent one-time application. There is absolutely zero slippage. You are locked in.
Locked in, but at a cost.
Right. Because they're meant to interface with thick leather track suits, if you try to grip them tightly while wearing regular textile street gear, they will literally tear your pants to shreds over time.
It's true, they really will. So, okay, the MT-09 clearly wins on basic ergonomic comfort, while the ZX6R requires physical conditioning and aftermarket rubber just to make a 40-minute commute bearable.
Right.
But we have to look at what happens when the road actually gets twisty, because this is where the ZX6R's ergonomic compromises start making perfect sense.
Yeah. This moves us into the handling dynamics, and it really becomes a battle of like playful versus planted.
Playful versus planted, I like that.
Because of its upright geometry and those wide handlebars, the MT-09 is just incredibly lightweight and tossable.
Very agile.
Yeah, in low-speed, tight twisties, it is highly flickable. You can muscle it around tight canyons way faster and easier than a Super Sport.
Mm.
But the sources also mention it can feel, quote, never quite planted. One writer even said, it feels like a pogo stick if you brake too hard.
A pogo stick.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's because the MT-09 suspension has more travel to handle everyday street bumps.
Right, it's softer.
Right. So if a rider doesn't properly adjust the preload and rebound, hard braking causes the front end to dive aggressively, and hard acceleration causes the rear to squat.
Okay.
And that massive weight transfer creates a pitching motion that's the pogo stick effect. At high speeds or in long, sweeping corners, that chassis movement can start to feel incredibly sketchy.
Which is exactly where the ZX6R shines.
Mm.
That bike is built to ride on rails. It offers this razor-sharp front-end feedback.
It really does.
Yeah, in high-speed sweepers, the track-bred chassis completely outshines the MT-09. And a big part of that comes down to the suspension hardware itself.
Right.
Specifically, those Showa big piston forks on the Kawasaki.
Yeah, the big piston forks are legendary. So standard motorcycle forks basically push a small internal piston through hydraulic fluid to absorb bumps.
Okay.
The Showa big piston design uses a much larger internal piston, which means it can flow more hydraulic fluid at lower pressures.
And what does that actually mean for the rider?
It translates to vastly superior damping control. When you dive into a high-speed corner, the fork smoothly supports the weight of the bike rather than just diving rapidly. It gives the rider an incredibly stable, planted feel.
That makes total sense. So we have these physical handling differences, but there's also a massive technological divide between these two bikes.
Huge.
The MT-09, especially if you look at the SP model, is essentially a computer on wheels.
Yeah, it really is.
It features this highly advanced 6-axis IMU and inertial measurement unit. And I really want to highlight how this works, because it's not just like basic traction control.
No, it's way beyond that.
The IMU uses internal gyroscopes and accelerometers to measure the bike's pitch, roll, and yaw thousands of times a second.
Wow.
It constantly calculates the bike's exact position in 3D space.
Right, and it allows the bike's brain to intervene seamlessly.
Mm.
If you aggressively grab the throttle while leaned over in a corner, the IMU calculates the lean angle and subtly cuts power to prevent the rear tire from sliding out.
That is wild.
It manages wheelie control, lean-sensitive traction control, and slide control. The MT-09 also features standard cruise control, which is amazing for highway stints, and a highly refined up-and-down auto blipper.
Which means the computer automatically blips the electronic throttle to match engine speed on downshifts.
Yeah,
You just bang down through the gears without ever pulling the clutch lever.
it's like a video game.
Meanwhile, the Kawasaki ZX6R is relying on much older tech. Historically, it might only feature a basic up-quick shifter, some rudimentary standard traction control, and no cruise control at all.
Right, very analog.
But I read something fascinating in the Reddit threads about this. One of our sources explicitly said they actually go out of their way to turn off the traction control on their ZX6R.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they prefer the raw, unassisted cable throttle feel. So it makes me wonder, does an intrusive 6-axis IMU on a bike like the MT-09 actually dilute the raw connection between the rider and the road?
And that right there cuts directly to the core of the head versus heart debate.
Head versus heart, yeah.
On paper, using your logical brain, the MT-09 is the superior value. It has deeply advanced safety technology, it's vastly more comfortable, and the CP3 engine provides usable torque for the street.
It makes sense.
It is objectively the better real-world motorcycle for 99% of riding situations.
But nobody buys a motorcycle with a spreadsheet.
Never!
You buy it with emotion. And the ZX6R possesses an emotional allure that just captures the heart. It's the aggressive aesthetic, the wind tunnel fairings, the screaming inline-4 exhaust note.
It offers a raw mechanical feel that makes you feel like you're piloting a truly special machine.
Exactly. Some riders feel that the heavy computer intervention on the MT-09 makes it feel like the bike is riding you. The ZX6R demands physical skill and input, and for some, that makes mastering the machine vastly more rewarding.
Well, let's follow that narrative thread for a second. Say your heart wins out, you crave the inline-4 scream, you embrace the aggressive posture, and you bring the ZX6R home.
Okay, I've got it in my garage.
According to our sources, your journey is just beginning. You immediately have to overcome several factory compromises to make this bike the street or track weapon it was actually meant to be.
You essentially have to pay a modding tax.
A modding tax, exactly.
It's exactly like buying a high-end gaming PC. You still have to immediately upgrade the cooling fans and the mouse just to get the performance you actually paid for.
That's a great analogy.
So let's trace the path of a rider fixing these constraints, starting with the most critical safety issue on the track: the brakes.
Oh man, the brakes.
This was wild to read. One rider on the ZX6R subreddit mentioned taking their brand new bike to a track day, and just 10 minutes into their first session, their brake lever went completely mushy, just pulling all the way back to the handlebars.
Yeah, this is a classic case of brake fade, and it really comes down to the mechanism of hydraulic pressure.
Explain that a bit.
So production bikes like the ZX6R come from the factory with standard rubber brake lines. Under intense, repetitive track braking, the brake fluid gets insanely hot, sometimes even boiling.
Right.
And because hydraulic fluid cannot compress, all that resulting pressure takes the path of least resistance.
Which means instead of pushing the brake pads against the rotor to stop the bike, the pressure just inflates and expands the hot rubber brake hose itself.
Exactly. You squeeze the lever and the hose just balloons out.
That is terrifying.
It is. Upgrading to steel-braided brake lines, like those from Cormoto, is a relatively cheap, essential fix for this.
Because the woven steel mesh physically prevents the internal line from expanding under pressure.
Right, ensuring that every ounce of force you put into the lever goes directly to the brake calipers. You get a rock-solid, consistent lever feel no matter how hot the fluid gets.
But, as the track mechanic noted in the forum, you still have to bleed the brakes with fresh fluid before every single track event to remove any air bubbles.
Every time.
Routine maintenance.
So, okay, you fix the brakes, you can finally stop safely at the track, but now you hit the next factory constraint: generic suspension tuning.
We talked about how brilliant those Showa-big piston forks are, but out of the crate, they're just set to a hypothetical average rider weight.
And the absolute best and often completely free modification you can do is to have a professional tune the preload, compression, and rebound damping for your specific body weight and riding style.
It makes that much of a difference.
Oh, having the right geometry and damping completely unlocks the bike's handling potential. It transforms it from feeling sluggish to razor sharp.
Okay, so the bike stops perfectly and handles like it's on rails. But the second you take it on the street, you hit the aesthetic and regulatory constraints.
The ugly plastic bits.
Yes. Street laws require this massive, bulky rear fender that just completely ruins the sleek lines of the sport bike.
We actually looked at a highly detailed YouTube guide by a creator named Hejimoto about this. He was installing a Vagabond Motorsports tail tidy, or fender eliminator, on a 2025 ZX6R.
I saw that one.
Yeah, and this specific kit is brilliant because it cleans up the rear end by removing that massive plastic mudguard, but it allows you to reuse the stock LED turn signals and the stock license plate light.
Right, so there's no complex electrical splicing. It's just a clean bolt-on that dramatically sharpens the look of the bike.
Exactly, but Hejimoto didn't stop there because you also hit the emissions constraint.
Oh, the exhaust.
Right. You can't have a super sport and leave the giant, heavy, quiet stock exhaust on it. You want to install an aftermarket slip-on exhaust to let that inline-4 scream.
But doing so creates a huge mechanical headache with the exhaust servo motor.
Yes, it does.
Let me break down why this happens for the listener. Modern sport bikes have this physical butterfly valve inside the exhaust piping, and its job is to restrict noise and emissions at lower RPMs.
Right.
This valve is opened and closed by metal cables connected to an electronic servo motor, which is usually located right under the rider's seat.
So when you install an aftermarket slip-on exhaust, that new pipe doesn't have the butterfly valve.
It's just an open tube.
Exactly. Now, you could simply unhook the cables and leave the heavy servo motor spinning uselessly under the seat. But if you actually pull that bulky servo motor out to save weight and gain some much-needed storage space,
The bike freaks out.
yeah. The bike's engine control unit, the ECU, realizes the motor is missing. It immediately throws an FI, or fuel injection, error code on your dashboard, basically thinking the bike is fundamentally broken.
Which is so annoying.
Ah,
But to fix this, riders use a clever little electronic device called a servo buddy. Woodcraft makes a very popular version of this.
and how does that work?
Well, you unplug the heavy servo motor, pull it out of the bike entirely, and then plug the servo buddy directly into the wiring harness. It sends the exact right electrical signals to trick the ECU into thinking the exhaust valve motor is still there and functioning perfectly.
So no error codes on your dash, less weight on the bike, and you get more space under the seat.
Exactly, it's a must-have mod.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the final and perhaps most impactful constraint, the gearing.
The gearing, yes.
This directly addresses that quarter throttle dilemma we talked about at the very beginning,
Yeah.
where the ZX6R feels sluggish at street speeds because all the power is hiding way up above 10,000 RPM.
This is an old school hack that I absolutely love. Riders fix this by changing the physical sprocket sizes, usually dropping one tooth on the front engine sprocket or adding two teeth to the rear wheel sprocket.
Right, the -1+2 trick.
Exactly. And to understand how this works, just think of a multi-gear mountain bike.
Okay,
If you drop down to a smaller gear up front near the pedals, you have to pedal faster, but it becomes incredibly easy to accelerate forward and climb a steep hill. You're multiplying your mechanical leverage.
and it's the exact same physics on a motorcycle, right?
Yep. By dropping a tooth on the front sprocket, the engine spins more times relative to one full rotation of the rear wheel.
So you sacrifice a little bit of theoretical top speed, which, let's be honest, you can't legally use on the street anyway,
Right.
in exchange for massive acceleration gains down low.
Exactly. It effectively brings that high RPM power band down to much more usable street speeds. The bike revs quicker, accelerates harder out of corners, and makes that inline-four engine feel punchy and responsive without needing to hit 100 miles per hour.
It's basically like hacking the engine's personality to make it better for the real world.
That's a great way to put it.
So bringing this all together, we have gone deep into the forums, the specs, the track day nightmares, and the garage mods today.
We've covered a lot of ground.
On one side, we have the Yamaha MT-09. It is a torque-heavy, deeply comfortable, tech-loaded weapon. It makes normal street speeds absolutely thrilling. You can commute on it all day, but it'll beat you up in the wind at high speeds and might feel a bit unplanted when pushed to the absolute limit.
And on the other side, the Kawasaki ZX6R, a precision track scalpel.
A completely different philosophy.
It really is. It requires physical commitment, it demands high RPMs to really wake up, and it requires a journey of modifications, tank grips, steel-braided lines, suspension tuning, and gearing changes just to truly shine.
But in return, it offers this raw, emotional, race-bred experience that a naked bike simply cannot replicate.
It really is the ultimate battle of head versus heart, the comfortable athletic shoe versus the aggressive track bike.
But looking at all of this, looking at how difficult it is to actually utilize a 636cc super sport on public roads without losing your license or constantly fighting the machine, it brings up a really interesting question.
Yeah, it does. If a modern middleweight supersport is honestly too fast to legally ring out on the street,
Right.
and an 890cc naked bike is too unaerodynamic to comfortably hold triple-digit highway speeds,
Right.
is the pursuit of massive horsepower actually a trap?
I think it might be. We saw one fascinating insight from a rider in the forums who owned a ZX6R, then he bought a Z900, then an MT-09.
Okay.
His ultimate conclusion was that if you really want to pin the throttle, bang through the gears, and hear an engine scream without immediately hitting 100 miles per hour, you shouldn't be looking at 600s or 900s at all.
No.
No. He suggested the Kawasaki ZX4R.
Right, a 400cc inline-four screamer?
Exactly. It has the wind tunnel fairings, it has the intoxicating inline-four sound, it has the aggressive, track-focused chassis, but you can actually redline it through a canyon road without going straight to jail.
That is such an interesting point.
Maybe the ultimate answer to having fun on the street isn't about choosing between brutal torque and high RPM screams on massively powerful bikes. Maybe it's about finally embracing the absolute joy of riding a slow bike fast.
Wow, that completely flips the entire debate on its head. It challenges the fundamental assumption that bigger and more powerful is always better when it comes to riding enjoyment.
It's definitely something for you to chew on next time you're standing in front of the closet trying to decide between the running shoe and the tracks bike.
For sure.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah.
Keep questioning the consensus, keep exploring, and we'll catch you on the next one.